A little girl is seen waking up from what seems to be an attack that had earlier occurred. She walks out into the open and suddenly starts to hear her mother's voice calling to her. Suddenly, a young teenager abruptly wakes up from a horrible daydream in the present. She's apparently on a bus ride with a friend and many other students. Everyone is singing and rejoicing, all excited about their road trip. A while later, everyone is asleep when suddenly the bus driver takes a different route. Some of the students notice, but before anyone can react, it is already too late. Someone on the bus puts on a gas mask and tosses a ball full of gas. Everyone falls unconscious. The young girl gets abducted by the people in charge. Later, the young girl wakes up on a stretcher, all tied up. She then hears the news saying that their bus went off the cliff in a tragic accident, but she knew it was fake. The doctor beside her, Dr. Baek, and her twin then reassures the girl that they're aware she's pregnant with fraternal twins. Both women then inform her that her pregnancy shall prove to be an important thing to them. Back in the present day, a girl named Ark-1 has eliminated all the soldiers and scientists in the facility where she's being kept. After doing so, she escapes the facility and walks into the forest, where she somehow gets lost. Meanwhile, Jang, the head of the institute, pays the now old Dr. Baek a visit. Jang informs her about the girl who has escaped the Jeju Island coastal base after eliminating a huge amount of workers. Dr. Baek suggests that they start investigating immediately, but Jang tells her that they can't investigate their current problem now. One is because he perceives that it was an internal and not an external breach, and two, because the child was lost, not abandoned. But in any case, Jang urges Dr. Baek not to fail to let her know that with that child roaming free, they're done for. But little does Dr. Baek know that he has secretly deployed a tactical team to solve the problem. Back in the forest, Ark-1 is slowly walking ahead when she begins to hear her mother's voice calling her name. After a while of walking, she makes it to the main road. There, she gets kidnapped by the henchmen and their leader, Yang-do. They apparently have another abductee, Kyung-hee, seated at the back. Kyung-hee tries to explain to them that there's no way the young girl knew what they were up to, but Yang-do couldn't care less. After all, she's being kidnapped because she refuses to give up her father's land for the criminal. While driving, Kyung-hee tries to plead with them to let the little girl go, as she obviously has no involvement with the issue. But Yang-do claims to be tidy by cleaning up everything that can implicate him. Ark-1, however, is smarter than one could imagine. She immediately quotes their car plate number and some other address of the vehicle, which shocks Yang-do. One of Yang-do's men then grabs her, upsetting her. She's even hit a couple times for disrespecting, as she keeps warning them to stop. Unfortunately, the men don't stop, and she eventually causes an accident, injuring the men, and some kicking the bucket thanks to her. The car crashes inside the forest, where Kyung-hee stops her from finishing off one of the men. Kyung-hee then dials the police and initially attempts to leave without the young girl. Guilt-stricken, she takes the girl with her and rushes away before the police arrive. A while later, Kyung-hee calls her uncle to come pick them up. On his arrival, Ark-1 gets a nosebleed and loses consciousness. Kyung-hee and her uncle then carry her into the vehicle and back to the uncle's clinic. At the clinic, the man uses surgical procedures to remove the experimental devices buried into Ark-1's skin. But as he takes out anything lodged into her skin, he notices the wounds healing almost immediately. But he blames it on the alcohol he's been drinking non-stop, or maybe he thinks he's hallucinating. Later, he and Kyung-hee are discussing the girl. He tells her to call the police as they don't know if the little girl is one with a dangerous backstory. But Kyung-hee tells him that that's the exact reason she doesn't want to get the police involved. Meanwhile, an agent, Jo Hyeon, has just completed a mission, which she barely managed to survive. After getting back in contact with her South African partner, he comes to pick her up. Before driving off, he bickers with her about being too old-fashioned by ticking out the names of her target on an old notebook instead of using the iPad he gave her. Jo Hyeon, on the other hand, doesn't care and just wants to go home to get some rest. At her apartment, it's revealed that she's superhuman as well when she starts to take out the bullets from her wounds and heals almost immediately. Meanwhile, Kyung-hee has no choice but to take Ark-1 with her, so she ends up taking the young girl to her home, where she lives with her younger brother, Dae-gil. When Dae-gil sees his sister, he grabs her by the face, causing Ark-1 to think that he's a threat. But Kyung-hee quickly calms the situation and introduces them to each other. Kyung-hee also formally welcomes her to the house and even prepares dinner on her behalf, whereas Dae-gil is displeased and more frustrated that they have to keep facing Yang-do until they eventually lose their home. While the two fight about the matter, Ark-1 helps herself to all the food on the table. After dinner, Kyung-hee shows her childhood bedroom and asks her to use it in the meantime. She also gives her a change of clothes and bids her goodnight. Meanwhile, Agent Jo Hyeon and her partner are summoned by Dr. Baek to talk about the escape and the danger she poses. Dr. Baek then gives her a device that can help her track the little girl, claiming they had implanted chips in the heads of the experiments for cases like this. Jo Hae-yeon then agrees and leaves with her partner. As they drive out of the place, Jo Hae-yeon notices their car being followed. She informs her partner about it, and he quickly does something about it. After losing their trail, he rams their car into where they're parked. Confused, the guys then exit the car and launch an attack at Jo Hae-yeon's partner. All three of them engage in a superhuman battle. Jo Hae-yeon's partner deals with them. Then Jo Hae-yeon leaves them a message for their boss, who she seems to be very acquainted with. Later that night, Yang-do and his henchmen return to the property to threaten Kyung-hee and her brother. He wants the property, but the kids refuse to get beaten up in the process. It's also revealed that Yang-do was the one who took their father's life, so he could have the property to himself. Now, his frustration lies in what a stumbling block the man's children have become. While the harassment continues, Arc 1 shows up and defeats almost all of Yang-do's henchmen with her superhuman strength. Afterward, Yang-do flees in shame and terror, but Yang-do is not happy with how he was treated and with what happened. So he takes a few men the next day and goes to torture Kyung-hee's uncle for information about the weirdly strong girl. After the incident, Dae-gil gets closer to Arc 1. He starts showing her stuff on YouTube and tries to make small talk with her every chance he gets. That morning, Kyung-hee takes the kids shopping for groceries, where Arc 1 proceeds to eat all the free samples she can get. Dae-gil finds out and then goes to caution her, but the young woman yells to him that she was told she can eat all she wants for free. Meanwhile, Kyung-hee sees them running around and can't help but smile. She then gets a call from her uncle, who's been badly injured by Yang-do, and immediately leaves the supermarket without telling the kids. She takes him to the hospital to get his wounds treated, and by the time they're done, it's already night. She takes her uncle back to his house and supports him inside while on a call with Dae-gil. He tells Dae-gil that she's sorry she left so suddenly and informs him about what happened. She then tells him to have dinner without her and not to wait, as she'll be there soon. Inside the house, her uncle advises her to let the kid go to avoid more trouble with Yang-do. Kyung-hee then steps out of the house to enter her car when she sees Jo Hae-yeon's partner, Parker, directly in front of her. She's about to retaliate when Jo Hae-yeon enters her car and asks her not to panic, as she means no harm. Jo Hae-yeon shows her a video of Arc 1 and how she eliminated everyone at the base before her escape. Kyung-hee is skeptical about it, but Jo Hae-yeon warns her that she doesn't know when Arc 1 will mutate, and so if she wants her and her brother's safety, she will do as Jo Hae-yeon says. Jo Hae-yeon then hands her a cell phone for them to communicate and asks for her help to stop Arc 1. She also tells her to leave the house with her brother once the fireworks, being their signal, begin. Meanwhile, Yang-do returns to his base on a phone call with his partners in crime. He informs them about the girl and enters his office to meet all his men lifeless. He is then confronted by Jang's squad, who are also after the girl. Yang-do tries to play smart with them, but the gang gives him a taste of their abilities in exchange for the girl's location. Back at the house, Dae-gil and Arc 1 are seated on the rooftop talking about her skills and how she used one or two things to get them internet famous. Dae-gil then gets curious and asks her what other abilities she has, and that's when Arc 1 reveals that she also has telekinesis. Dae-gil is overwhelmed and wishes to know more about her as they continue their conversation. Kyung-hee later returns home with panic in her heart. On the other hand, Jo Hae-yeon and her men prepare for the signal so they can infiltrate the place. Back in the house, Kyung-hee watches Dae-gil and Arc 1 get closer as they watch TV together. Suddenly, Dae-gil remembers that there's a fireworks festival today, so he grabs Arc 1 by the hand and urges her to come with him to watch the fireworks. Out of panic, Kyung-hee tells him to let go of the girl's hands. Both kids are confused at first, but Kyung-hee immediately apologizes and asks Arc 1 to run away fast. Meanwhile, Jang's squad arrives at the scene with Yang-do and his men in numbers, aggravating Jo Hae-yeon, who knows that their plan will be spoiled now. Kyung-hee goes out to buy time for the two kids to escape, but she gets shot by Yang-do in the process. Jo Hae-yeon's men detect the kids on the rooftop and prepare to strike. Up on the rooftop, Dae-gil shows Arc 1 where to run to. He then promises that they'll meet again when everything is okay. He then tells her to leave and that he wants to go back to his sister. Unfortunately, Dae-gil comes out of the house to meet his sister, going toward the light. Just then, Jo Hae-yeon gives a signal to her tactical team that fires the roof with a bazooka to hit hit Ark-1, but the girl is able to escape right on time. However, by firing the bazooka, Jang's squad realizes that there's another blockade in their way. The two teams then engage in a battle, where Jo Ha-yeon's team is wiped out by the squad. Meanwhile, Yang-do attempts to shoot Dae-gil on account that he's fed up with their nonsense. But just as he's about to shoot, Jo Ha-yeon fires a bullet at Yang-do. The leader of Jang's squad proceeds to use her telekinesis to wipe out Yang-do's men. Following that, Jo Ha-yeon's companion begins to question their abilities, but Jo Ha-yeon urges him to just shoot and not back down. During the one-sided shootout, Jo Ha-yeon manages to take down one of the squad members, but she's still not a match for the others as they not only heal fast but also regenerate. Jo Ha-yeon sees Dae-gil and warns him to run, but Yang-do, who's still very much alive, attempts to shoot the little boy again. However, this time, Jo Ha-yeon protects him by taking the bullet for him, but soon realizes that the bullet went through her and still touched Dae-gil. This angers Jo Ha-yeon, who abruptly attacks another member of the squad, but this only makes her drop her guard down as she's attacked by a different member and eliminated on the spot. Ark-1 finally wakes up after the explosion and realizes that she can't just leave behind the beautiful memories she's made. She's confronted by a squad member who promises to destroy her this time, but Ark-1 takes her out effortlessly. She returns to the house to see Dae-gil and Kyung-hee lying dead, and this provokes her. First, she breaks Yang-do's legs and leaves him incapacitated, even after realizing he was given a superhuman dose. She then attacks the squad members one by one, taking them out without even putting much effort like they are. She then enters a fight against the last two members of the tactical force, where she disintegrates one of them with her telekinesis. And finally, down to the last member, who now realizes that she shouldn't have messed with Ark-1. She backs up into a car, and out of the car comes a girl, Gu Ja-yoon. She thinks her savior is here, but Gu Ja-yoon introduces herself as Ark-1's sister and eliminates the last squad member. She then reveals to her beloved sister that she was the one who helped her escape and that she's been monitoring her since her escape. Ja-yoon also reveals that she needs her to find their mother, but she can't do it without Ark-1 as she has a stronger psychic bond with their mother. Ark-1 doesn't respond. Instead, she's filled with grief that she has lost the people she considered as family. Meanwhile, Yang-do is still battling between life and death as Ark-1 wants him to pay for all the troubles he has caused. Ja-yoon then suggests that Ark-1 injects one of the two siblings with the last dose, but whoever she picks will never be human again. Ark-1, however, doesn't wish this kind of life for any of them, but while she's distracted, Ja-yoon injects her sister with a tranquilizer and puts her in the car before driving off together. Back in Dr. Baek's mansion, she can sense the danger and chaos that'll accompany these two sisters now that they're united. She then tells her partner to get ready for what's coming as she finishes up her painting of the girl's mother. The scene then takes us to a woman inside a huge aquarium with wires connected to her. Her face is zoomed in and matches the painting made by Dr. Baek, but just then her eyes open and the screen goes black. In a post-credit scene, Jo Ha-yeon's companion wakes up after realizing that the coast is clear. He goes to get Jo Ha-yeon, but thinks she's gone. Fortunately for him, Jo Ha-yeon is woken up by his whining and crying about what he'll do without her. He helps her up and they realize that the kids were taken. Jo Ha-yeon then called Jang only to find out that Jang had been watching them the whole time. She asks for his help since the matter can no longer be overlooked now. Jang then agrees to help and tells her that she shouldn't worry because he knows where they're heading. And this is the end. This was a recap of the 2022 horror movie The Witch Part 2, The Other One, written and directed by Park Hoon-jung, starring Shin Sia, Park Yoon-bin, Seo Eun-soo, Jin-gu, Sung Yoo-bin, and Jo Min-soo. So do you think Kyung-hee's hospitality was paid properly? And who else thought that the siblings didn't deserve to go just like that? Let us know in the comments below with #CinemaRecap. Until next time.